Welcome into Big East Energy. The transfer portal is drunk, and we're going to cover it all. Welcome into Big East Energy Weekly, powered by the Big East Energy Network. I'm here with Casey Matthews. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, co-hosting it with Casey here. Now that I'm back from vacation, you guys can expect at least once a week in the offseason, likely twice during the season as we get closer to real basketball. But before we actually look at anything from a basketball perspective, we got this transfer portal that is, for lack of a better word, just drunk off its ass. Like there's people in the portal. I think even what's the kid from Clemson, Shefflin or something like that, was basically said that at the advice of counsel, I've decided to enter in the portal in case we get that fifth year, which may happen. And you get kind of, I respect the hustle. Like, why not? He's a valuable piece that can go to some place, whether it's Clemson or not. And then when you focus mostly on the Big East, we talked about this pre-show. St. John's, the mega haul that they talked about, to me, it's been more mega versus haul. But if they get a point guard, then it becomes something else, because there's still questions.
What do you mean by that, Mark? I don't mean
because they're getting a ton of players that are all talented, but do they fit? Do they fit? And do they and also are they the types of players that Rick Pitino can mold into the type of style of play that he wants? Maybe not. I think those are the question marks that I have. It's not about the talent. It's about, can they fit, and you need a point guard. Like, do you know who's on there? Do you know who their assistant coach is? Talik Brown, former UConn great who won a national championship. Yep. If Talik Brown in his prime is the point guard of the St. John's team, they're a national title favorite, because you don't need them to score. You just need them to run the show. And that's what they need right now. They need a guy who can run the show and let all of this talent kind of showcase. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing too, like, because I share in those sentiments of like, who's the point guard. Coach Pitino has come out and talked about Ian Jackson being the next great point guard there. Listen, like, it's hard to bet against him and what he sees when he evaluates players. But that being said, from what I've seen of Ian playing, and I grew up a Carolina guy, I still have some connections there that I'm still emotionally invested a little bit into the Tar Heels. I don't really see him as a point guard, but I also feel like if he can be that, it's a very dangerous team. It's a very athletic team, a big team. I mean, you can say a lot of things. What I'm really interested in, Mark, is this. Go and look at that team last year.
Yep.
And look at how they built that team and what the DNA of that team was. And it was a lot of toughness. It was a lot of physicality. It was a lot of guys that, you just kind of knew that it was going to be hard to score against. And now when I see this team that he's putting together, it's like, how do we stop them from scoring? And that was the issue in the tournament. And everybody said it. This team, when they run into a night and an opponent that can outscore them and they're having a hard time scoring, they're going to have a hard time winning that game. And that's exactly what happened. Now, you can point fingers at RJ Lewis and do that all day. I don't choose to do that. I just think at the end of the day, their DNA was stopping you from scoring, and then basically throw the ball at the rim, go get it, and lay it back in. And now this team is totally different. I mean,
Casey, you know who they reminded me of? Like, we're a Big East show, and as a kid growing up, they remind me of Big John's teams from Georgetown. Like, just insanely athletic. You could not get a clean look against them. Even in the Allen Iverson days, they didn't have a ton of scorers. Like, they had guys that were volume shooters, but what they had was big physical guys that could go get offensive rebounds. And the modern day version of Dan Hurley's talked about this, is they kind of remind you of Houston, but to your point, he's kind of flipped it. Like, it's still a big physical athletic team, But is this team going to play defense?
And you flipped it fast, and I think that's where the portal is just it's what I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but
insane.
You said it earlier, drunk, but like it's when you have a DNA as a person, as a coach, and then you know how good you are, and then you also have this other little detail called money.
Oh yeah.
You can then go and flip the script. Not everybody can do it, first of all. And this is one reason why, like, we've talked about this, I think on the pod, but definitely one-on-one, is I'm a Pitino I love Rick Pitino as a basketball.
Yep.
One of the things to me that I just have a ton of respect for him and why is because you look at how well he's done it in all the different eras that he's been in. And he has been able to have success through all the changes in college basketball. This is another example of that to me, of where he recognizes, okay, in this era that we're in, I've got to have 3-point shooters. And so he said, okay, cool. I won the Big East last year by not letting you score and just being good enough offensively. Now I'm going to flip the script and I'm going to outscore you. And then I'm going to just try to keep you. Now, I still think no matter where he's coaching, whether it's in Greece, whether it's in Iceland, his teams are going to guard you and they're going to play hard. And because of the athleticism that is a staple of, name the player that's there. Even the international kid they just got is athletic. They're
good.
They're going to be good. They're going to be good.
There's no, we talked about it pre-show. I think it's all good. It's good news. If we take the Creighton and the UConn angle out of it, if we're just talking Big East, it's good for the Big East. I've said this from the jump. Like, even though UConn has been good over the last 2.5 to 3 years and a top 1 or 2 or 3 team in the country, the way the Big East becomes the basketball power that it used to be and continues to be in our minds is to have some of, no disrespect to Creighton, no disrespect to Marquette and other places, but to have some of these original powers rise back up. It's good for the league that Georgetown is looking to reload. It's good for the league if Seton Hall can get back off the mat. It's good for the league if Providence can do something, with Kim English and his guys. It's not good for the league when those teams suck and the flag bearers are UConn, Creighton, Marquette. Let's welcome in our founding sponsor, Asabasa Spice Company. You know that moment when your neighbors start peeking over the fence, the grill's fired up, the smoke's roaring, your backyard smells like a 5-star steakhouse? That's the power of Asabasa Spice Company. Now, you guys have already seen a little snippet of what I've done in my own home with a steak, with one of the steak rubs that Jacob and his folks at Asabasa have brought us. This company has no fillers, no fluff, just bold, small batch blends made in North Carolina, crafted to turn you into a backyard legend. Their wildfire mesquite rub is what I've used mostly, and I am an absolute fan of it. It's a fan favorite. It's a perfect mix of sweet smoke and heat for brisket, rubs, burgers, whatever you're throwing down. It hits different. So if you're tired of boring, mass-produced rubs that disappear the second that hit the pan, step up in flavor that actually shows up. Go to asabasaspicecompany.com or asabasaspice.com and use code BIGFLAVOR15 for 15% off your first order. That's ASABASA spice.com, asabasaspice.com/BEE for 15% off that first order. Asabasa Spice Company, it's so big, it takes over our screen. Go get it out. Go get it checked out, guys. It's fine. It sure will sustain. It's not that big a deal, but it's not in the grand scheme of things. I want St. John's to be good. I want some of these original powers to be good because it's only going to benefit the league as a whole.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think on the national stage, the Big East gets more respect when those powerhouses are true powerhouses. And when you see St. John's, I would include, and I know you would, I would include UConn. Obviously, to me, I mean, they're the powerhouse. Right now, I think St. John's, UConn, Georgetown. Now, in the last era, last decade, I think you have to also include Villanova in that conversation.
And that's totally that's an omission. That's not.
Yeah. Well, and I knew. I mean, you can make an argument almost for every team, right? Like, I mean, now I do think some of the newer additions, probably don't carry the same weight name wise. But that's how it is, and that'll be that way till it's changed. And I think Coach Mack's done a great job, obviously at Creighton, getting this program to be recognized nationally. But I do agree. If you're looking at the top 25 and you're scanning it, it just looks different when you see St. John's in the top 10, when you see hopefully a Villanova and a Georgetown in the top 25, versus if you were to see a Providence in the top 25, a Creighton in the top 25. It just feels different. It almost feels like something's off in the Big East when you don't have the UConn, Georgetown, St. John's, those perennial powers there. So,
oh man, I don't even know if you saw this, and I don't necessarily know if this is, and it's official. They got Dylan Mitchell too, St. John's.
I did not see that being official. I knew he was. Yeah, I knew he was on the board.
So timeout. I'm not revisiting anything I said because I still think they need a point guard. But you have Ian Jackson, Bryce Hopkins, Dylan Mitchell. Now, I love Dylan Mitchell. He played for my buddy Wes Miller. Can't shoot a lick, but is literally the most athletic kid probably in the entire portal, right?
Absolute freak.
Josan Sainon, who was fantastic for Bobby at Arizona State, and then Isaiah Sellers. Everybody is 6'5" and above. Ian Jackson 6'4"ish. Yep. They all are fantastic players. Wow, I didn't see that. Plus, you got the international kid. So
the Austrian
to me, St. John's, not just because of Dylan Mitchell, but in addition to that, is easily the favorite going into next season. And they are a top 3 national title contender if they can get a point guard who can kind of put this all together and run the show for Pitino. Yeah. If Pitino is and listen, people were arguing with me on social media on X at Mark Zanetto CBB about how like me saying that this I don't think Ian Jackson's a point guard, and they're saying like, well, we're going to trust Rick Pitino. He's won national championships. It's like I would do the same thing with Dan Hurley. Sure. Hell, we did the same thing last year with Aiden Mahaney. We were like, we'll trust him. Like, why wouldn't I? He was won back to back.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't work out, you can revisit the comments that I've made about like you need a point guard. You can't skip steps. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a formula to a lot of things.
I get like I 100% understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying I disagree.
You can.
I guess. Well, but I'm not, because I do believe you have to have a point guard. You have to have a table setter. You can't have a guy that needs to score in order to contribute to your team being able to win.
You can have both.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going. The other side of this too, which I know we can certain people argue this. When you're talking about Ian Jackson, he's also going home.
Oh,
he's also going to go somewhere that like he grew up there. He's got a ton of pride to play for St. John's. To me, the buy-in that he will have to playing point guard and to really dedicating himself to doing whatever Coach Pitino says, I need you to do, I think you're going to get that. And you might not get that from a kid that's not going home. That's not going somewhere that like, it's just a pride factor there of playing for the team. I don't know if he grew up watching them or not. Never talked to Ian, but you know what I'm saying? Like I do think there's some extra stuff to that also leads me to believe that it could work. Now, do I think that they need some flexibility there to be able to slide him to the 2 and bring in somebody off the bench Yes, I do. And the other thing that we haven't even really touched on with this team is Bryce Hopkins has to stay healthy.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and that's where if he's not, that forces an Ian Jackson to play more of his natural role, but then you don't have that next great point guard at St. John's that Coach Pitino believes he has. Now you have to have somebody that can run the team. So if I'm a St. John's fan right now, I'm over the moon excited. I wish basketball season started tomorrow. But
yeah, that was, and by the way, that was 24 minutes ago. Jeff Borzillo from ESPN posted that.
Yeah, I had not seen that. I just looked it up here. I saw Rothstein tweeted it as well. I mean,
and you add that with what they have, and they've had a lot of defections and people have either transferred or kind of ran out of eligibility. But I still think losing RJ Lewis and replacing him with Ian Jackson isn't an upgrade. I think it's a wash as far as talent goes.
Yeah,
and I don't know, man. Like, you lose the Big East Player of the Year and you replace him with a guy who didn't have a great season at North Carolina. And you're really what you're doing is you're trusting Rick Pitino, which isn't a bad thing.
Right. I'd actually even say, Mark, I don't think it's even a wash.
You think Ian's better?
No. I think RJ's a better player.
Yeah, he's more accomplished.
Yeah, I do. Now, that's also in a vacuum, right? When you're looking at this from a team perspective and what Ian Jackson's potential could be for this team, I certainly think that he might be able to have a bigger impact on winning for them than RJ. But if you're just talking just individual players, I think RJ is probably a better player. But we'll see. I mean, you don't go to Carolina and then St. John's as a bad basketball player. I can tell you that. So we're gonna find that out. But like I said, if you can buy in and play that role and do it and be efficient in that role, the sky's the limit. I mean, we have our rundown there with biggest splash. Like, I mean, you could take your pick.
Is it him? You think it's him?
I'm going to go Bryce Hopkins. I'm going to go Bryce Hopkins if he's healthy. It's the whole recency bias is a real thing. Bryce was unbelievable. I mean, such a good basketball player. If he's healthy, I think he's the real deal. And so I'm going to go Bryce on that.
I mean, I'm going to be unpopular here, but let me tell you something. Because I don't even know if this counts, because we talk about St. John's in the Mega Hall. What would you call Xavier? They got like 20 guys.
Yeah.
Trey Carroll, Anthony Robinson, Johan Milovic, a Serbian named Filip Borovicinen. I can't say his name. Papa Njai from UNLV. Malik Moore from Montana.
Hey, don't, and you can stop there. Malik Moore is an unbelievable basketball player. That kid is a stud. I said Malik Moore is a stud.
Well, and you think about it, then they got Gabriel Pizzato, who is playing for the NBA Global Academy in Rome. Listen, every player, with the exception of All Right, who played for Valpo last year and is playing for and went to Link Academy, which is a notorious college basketball, essentially high school academy. Every player is over 6'7". So maybe the Patinos know something we don't, and they're just every guy that's over 6'6" is essentially in their target. And I also think, and I hate to give them credit because I am a notorious Duke hater, but I think what we're learning from that Duke team last year is that every coach is trying to match that type of, you can't go anywhere. Like, you can't pick on a player. You can't take a 6-foot guard, even though he's really good and a really good player for your team, and you can't put him with a guard him against a 6'6", other point guard or 6'7" wing who's now playing shooting guard for you, because you're trying to find this kind of like NBA style team that everyone's 6'5" up to 7 foot at every position. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'll give you a different angle too. Is I think you also have to recognize who are you going to be competing against in March, and that's going to be the SEC and the Big Ten.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're not big, long, and physical, like if you're a Big East team, you're an ACC team, you can build your team that can have a lot of success in league and potentially win your league. You might find yourself home early in March because those SEC and Big Ten teams, They are big, strong, and physical. And I think the mix of that plus shooting is why, we keep going back to St. John's, but is why that team's powerful. I agree with you on Xavier. I think your terminology of a hall, is
What's
very
what's theirs? If St. John's is a mega hall, what's theirs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's out of necessity. Obviously they got to fill a roster, and they have money to spend there. I mean, the same could be said for Nova. I mean, they still probably need, I think, 3 guys, but they've got some good players. I mean, I like Zion Stanford a lot.
Sure,
I think he's a good player there. Bryce Lindsey's a good player. Who's the Grand Canyon kid? Duke Brennan. I mean, he's a bigger guy. I like what they're doing too, and I have a lot of respect for Coach Willard, and I think he's a really good coach. I also think he recognizes that he probably has some time.
got some work to do. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I think the timing of him getting to Villanova was so late that he's, some of those guys were already gone off the table that he would have been in the mix for. So there's some of that. They got another kid. I know they have another top 100 kid that they signed.
He's a center out of Maryland. That was with them. What's his name? Braden Pierce.
Okay. Yeah. The 7-footer.
Yep.
They have Malachi Palmer that they brought with them from Maryland. Like they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. But I think if we're talking, and I know we do try. I know people probably doubt this. We do try not to be complete homers on the weekly show, because this is a Big East show and we love the Big East. But like, hey man, I love what the Jays have done.
I was just about to say that you gotta love them getting Josh Dix and Owen Freeman, Austin Swartz, Nick Graves. Like all of those make sense to me. So you know what I mean? Like some of the portal moves that other teams have done makes sense out of necessity. But if you're just truly talking roster construction, I would give the Jays a B+ or an A- grade, because I mean, arguably Josh Dix is the best shooting guard in this portal. Like he was 14th overall out of all players, not just in his position. So I just think that's a really great pickup. Not to mention Owen Freeman.
Yeah, Owen Freeman. I'm excited about Owen. I'm excited about everybody. Actually, I interviewed. You haven't had a chance to watch it. It just came out, but I interviewed Austin Swartz yesterday on the Roll Jays podcast. I mean, the kid was giving me goosebumps just talking about his preparation this summer, what he's excited about, playing in the system. Obviously you can't base a kid's performance off of an interview, but if it's anywhere close, we're going to be in good shape because he crushed the interview. But he's another one. I'm excited about adding him. I mean, Hudson Greer is not a transfer. He's a freshman coming from Montverde, absolute stud.
Yeah.
And then you still have Jackson McAndrew, who's the highest rated recruit in Creighton history. That's back next year, right? So I love where the Jays are at. So I think the league as a whole. I mean, I think Providence has done some good things. I really do. And a team we probably had never talked about, DePaul, just quietly going about their business. It's always going to be an uphill battle at DePaul. I feel like they've had a good year in the portal so far. So I mean, I like where the league's at.
I do too. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to close out the show talking about maybe who our all portal team is. And no, we can't pick Creighton UConn players, although we can, or all St. John's guys. We're going to try to be very, definitive, but also talk about the league as a whole here. I want to talk about that after the break. Oh, do that over. That's my bad. I'll edit. I'm going to edit this out anyway. So,
okay.
Really, real quick, right? All right, we're back on Big East Energy Weekly with Casey Matthews and Mark Zanetto. All right, so all portal team. We'll keep this. Let's go back and forth. You give me one, I give you one, like that. So if you were to think about who is your best, could be from Creighton. I know people were like, "Oh, you guys just talk Creighton and UConn stuff." But But who's the biggest like the top portal ad for any team?
I got to be consistent with Bryce Hopkins. I think he's, if healthy, I think he's a monster ad.
Okay.
How about you?
I'm going to, people are going to call me a homer, and that's fine. But I'm going Silas Damari Jr. And I'm not saying that because he's the best player in the portal in terms of Big East guys. But the reason why I feel like he is a all portal team guy is because not only is he a top 20 portal ranking, but he's essentially what they were missing last year. He's who people wanted Aiden Mahaney to be. If UConn has a 6'5", 6'6" point guard in last year's team, maybe they beat Florida. Maybe we're talking about them in the Final Four last year because they took Florida to the brink. So that team had Final Four talent. They just were missing like that one leader to kind of get them over the hump.
Sure.
And so that team struggled because of that, especially when Liam McNeely got hurt. So I'm going to go Silas, and then I'll flip it back to you.
The next one for me, I guess I'm also going to be homer here, is Owen Freeman. And my thought process there is Ryan Kalkbrenner is, besides Doug McDermott, the most important, best, whatever you want to call him, player in Creighton basketball history. When you lose a player of his caliber and of his size, it changes everything about your program. And to go out and get, at that time, I don't know what it had finished up on all the rankings, the best big in the transfer portal, and they did it in a cost-effective way. It allowed them to have some more flexibility for who else they were able to get, like a Josh Dix. But I think with Owen, his size and his skill level is going to allow us to continue the drop coverage defense if we want to continue that, but also some flexibility on some of those ball screens. If we want to hedge some ball screens or trap some ball screens, I think he can do that. And so for me, what he adds is more of maybe it's what he adds, but it's also what he doesn't take away in the loss of a Ryan Kalkbrenner that I would have to say Owen Freeman there.
Okay. I'm going to go to Georgetown now, and I'm going to do a portal ad because I feel like they are going to play off each other really well because they're both shooting guards. And I'm going to go KJ Lewis and Langston Love. That is two guys that I think are fantastic for Ed Cooley. They're the types of players that he wants on his team that can get a bucket when things go off script. And I know he stole Isaiah Abraham from us. I love Isaiah. I hope he has a great year for the Hoyas. Wish him the best. But those two are, I think, equally as big for a guy like Ed, who's trying to create something and create the Big John mystique in DC.
Okay, so it's back to me. Was this the last one? Are we gonna?
We'll do one more each. I know you can give me two. You can give me a one if you want. It's all right.
No. I'm actually, we talked about it a little bit before. I'm going to go Malik Moore at Xavier. I love him. 6'5", shoots about 40% from three. On the press conference when the release when they had signed him, Coach Rick Pitino was really excited about his versatility and that he can score from multiple levels. He can guard you. He's experienced. I love that addition for them because to me, it's one spot where there's no question mark at all. Like, you're going to get production from that spot. And that's, to me, that's what he needed to do early in the portal. And that's what he did. So we'll go Malik Moore.
All right. I'm going to give you one more and then we'll close out the show. We talked to just getting DePaul, getting some love in the middle and the end of the pod. Come on, Maker, going to DePaul from St. John's, I think is a nice commitment for them because he can't teach size. 7'1" type of guy that they didn't have in last year's team, obviously, because I can tell you right now, if Come On Maker is on that team last year when they had UConn down by 14 points, maybe they win that game because the only reason why UConn made a run to come back in that game is they just took everything to a hole. They had nobody to stop them. So it creates a shot blocking presence for Chris Holtzman and his guys that maybe they can play the type of style that he wants. And so that to me is some of these aren't necessarily, you know, the splashiest. I mean, you can put Ian Jackson on this list. You can put even Malachi Smith, who was a 10-point scorer for Dayton last year, and UConn as like a backup role to give them depth. But a kid like Maker gives DePaul kind of another option to potentially play, like you talked about, drop coverage, anything, if he pans out. And I think that potentially he can.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mean, these lists are always fun.
Sure.
Always fun to talk about. I think the thing to remember is it would be very easy to just look at, oh, well, Bryce, Ian, you know, all
Josh,
the names,
Silas. Yeah.
all the names that St. John's is bringing in and say, oh, what about him? What about him? What about him? I think it's about impact on your team.
Yep.
And that to me is what this list kind of encompasses, is guys that are going to have a big impact on their team, and thus hopefully for them has a big impact in how they produce and how they compete night in and night out in the league. So
1,000%.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen, I got to run, so we're going to close out the show. I want to thank Asabasa Spice for sponsoring the show. If you use the promo code Big East Energy, I think it's either BEE or spelling out Big East Energy. We'll double check on that. You get 15% off an order. I don't know if it's just your first order or in perpetuity, but I'm pretty sure it's the first order. It's great stuff. Like, I know we've given them shout outs before. Jacob and his crew do a great job. So make sure you check them out. Go to asabasaspice.com and use that promo code. All right. Any last words?
I mean, I'd love to echo what you said about Asabasa, because I got some meat upstairs that we're going to be throwing on the grill tonight. We've got some of their steak rub ready to roll. So yeah, it's good stuff. We love them as a sponsor. So I just want to echo that. But hey, subscribe to us, follow us on all the socials, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're trying to do this big. We've had some great feedback, trying to provide some Big East talk, man, and not just UConn and Creighton, which we can do all day long. So
if anybody, I've reached out to a few people. If anybody is interested in hosting a show on Big East Energy Network,
hit us call.
Give us a call, shoot us an email, hit me up on socials. I'll talk to anybody. Doesn't mean you get the job, but we can at least talk about it. All right.
Absolutely.
All
right, Mark. See you, brother.
Peace.